the Civil War and all of the mess on the right. I covered on the left too. So when I'm watching the guys over at the Vanguard, I like those fucking little whippersnappers.
Shout out to them.
They are the guys that you go to when you want to see who's in a tizzy on the left.
Yeah.
Right? Who's in a tizzy on the left. And they've covered extensively you versus TYT.
Yeah.
The Vanguard will be there, sir.
And do you want to move on to our next topic du jour? Our big shout out on the Ringers Higher Learning. Shout out to Van Lathen. We've heard from our chat that he was a fan of our show, and I've been checking out his content more recently. Then we saw that Emma Vigeland, friend of the show, was on there and was very pleasantly surprised by a shout out that came our way.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to Van Lathen. Shout out to Emma Vigeland. This was an awesome podcast appearance. Super excited to see it. Let's check it. I haven't watched the full thing yet, so I'm super excited to react to some of this for the first time. But from what I heard, seems lit.
Yeah, we got shouted out right from jump, and then I'll go ahead and play the actual meat and potatoes.
All right, guys, this is a real treat for us. As you guys know, I watch 15 different shows a day. My beloved Breaking Points, The Vanguard.
Oh my gosh.
But the place that started the
Emma can't believe it. She's like, you're listening to those knuckleheads? What does the world come to?
She's like, wow, you're going to put the Vanguard in the same sentence as Breaking Points? Give me a break, bro. These clowns, these idiots. Now, obviously, we're super proud to call Emma Vigeland a friend of the show. She's been on multiple times, but that is super funny. And I feel the same way. I also watch like 15 different fucking shows. I've recently started watching more Higher Learning. Super great program. Highly recommend you guys go and subscribe.
The Civil War and all of the mess on the right. I covered on the left too. So when I'm watching the guys over at the Vanguard, I like those fucking little whippersnappers.
Shout out to them. I mean, they do like.
And it's funny too. Emma's about to acknowledge something that I've never really acknowledged. Gavin and I have tried not to acknowledge. We had some hot takes back in the day. We were a little spicy. I was a big flamethrower back in the day, and unfortunately, we might have accidentally gotten some shrapnel thrown Emma's way. She references that a little bit here, but obviously nothing but love from Emma, and it was always really cool that she was still chill with us and all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Emma Vigeland respects the fact that we've always been honest about our opinions, and we're not just like groveling to become different friends with different people in media or whatever. Yeah, we're always going to be honest about our opinions. But that being said, I haven't actually heard this yet, so I'm super excited to hear what she has to say about us. This is about where I had to stop watching this morning because I was busy getting the show together. But that is super cool. Rachel says that Van Lathen really does fucking watch the Vanguard a lot. She's like, oh yeah, he's always watching the Vanguard. So shout out to Van Lathen. That's super fucking cool. Glad to hear that you enjoy the show, and then you use it as a way to understand or get some insight into the Civil War that's going on in the left. Always infighting is what we like to cover. Yeah. Obviously.
If people don't know, they do like a little drama channel. They critique left-wing media. They've critiqued me, but less so recently. So.
They are the guys that you go to when you want to see who's in a tizzy on the left.
Yeah.
Right? Who's in a tizzy on the left. And they've covered extensively you versus TYT.
Yeah.
And by the way, before we get
Cenk
into the TYT stuff and what Emma has to say about that, just in case anyone's not familiar, the context that we mostly criticized Emma in, from what I remember, the beef we had with her was around the Force the Vote episode. That was like a huge drama on left-wing internet that we covered a lot in the early days of this show. And both Emma and Sam, had opinions that I remember disagreeing with pretty intensely at the time. There were some pretty spicy debates that popped off. So yeah, I think that was like the majority of the disagreement, at least from me, from what I remember, was just based around that idea of like whether or not the squad should vote against Nancy Pelosi or not. And Sam and Emma seemed to think it was a stupid idea. We disagreed. So that was where most of the beef came from my memory. But yeah, she's right that since then it hasn't been a ton to disagree with Emma, and I think she's been super on point.
Oh yeah, back in the day, I used to have a tendency to just like light fires everywhere, and that was what I was referencing a little bit. And so, it's good to make sure that you're a little more focused in your critique, because like I said, I came after Kyle one time on accident, and it was just like back in the early stages, I was just like a shaken up soda bottle of rage, and I would come out here and I was a little too rough. So I do have regrets about that.
Yeah, but the Force the Vote shit was crazy, bro. We were not even in the top 5 most insane insane fucking people popping off at that time. Like people were going crazy, screaming at each other. We were just reacting to it all. We were just like, can you believe this craziness? We weren't big enough to even really be participating in it at that time.
That is 100% true. We were steeped in fires of fury, and it is the only way to come up in this business. You have to be willing to forge yourself through the fire. But anyway, excited to hear from Emma Vigeland on the Young Turks.
Over there, the Young Turks. Now, I'm going to be honest about something right now. When I first started seeing progressive media, that is what I saw.
Same.
When I first started seeing progressive media, it was, who is that man talking, doing the thing? It was him, and then it was Anna, then it was, they built it out, and you saw all kinds of
John
people
Idarola,
there.
Ben Mankiewicz.
Of course, yeah. Now it seems like, or if I don't say now, but definitely earlier, it seemed like there was something different that was happening over there, and you and a lot of other people called it out. What do you see as useful and nutritious disagreement amongst progressives, and what do you see as things that are non-useful? Like I saw that,
and I thought that was a really good question for Emma from Van Lathen.
Between you and Anna, particularly, it did get kind of personal at one point.
Well, sure, we were friends before, so it was personal in that way, and it stunk because there are not a lot of women in my industry, and so it was very helpful to have her as a resource at the time. But I have now like great friends, and Crystal Ball. You're a fan of Breaking Point. She's amazing. She's amazing.
Can I say something about Breaking Points real quick?
Yeah.
Real quick. So what I like about Breaking Points is that Crystal and Sagar are like not ideologically aligned.
Yes.
However, they have conversations about things and can yes and each other or disagree in a way that is very nutritious and still lays out both of their frameworks without a pissing contest. I really appreciate I really appreciate that platform.
People love that show, and I mean, like, I really appreciate it too. I obviously agree more with Crystal than I do with Sagar, but like, you know, they have a different flavor to it in that they're both critical of their own parties, right? I think, I think Crystal's probably having a bit of a moment right now because the Republicans are so insane. So it's hard for Sagar to defend it. But yeah, I mean, I think it was personal on their end. We had viewer questions. Anna had said things about, you know, she doesn't want to be called a birthing person, and it got really upset about it. And so we had viewers respond, and then we responded on air, and then she got upset about that and started this whole thing. But, you know, she's not a progressive anymore. She like announced that she's unaligned, or I forget what the word is. So yeah, we're going to be critical of that. Like my foundation in friendship with her, or even like when I was working there, it's not like I have disagreements with my friends I grew up with. I have friends I grew up with who are Republicans, but that's not the basis of our friendship. It's a shared history. It's growing up together. The basis of my friendships in my professional career are based on shared values. And what I saw them doing was a dereliction of the message or the way that I thought that the company was oriented. And then I had experience working.
I just wanted to cut in too. As much as I agree with Emma, I almost feel like she's being too charitable to Anna when recounting the whole birthing person scenario. Because, you know, she says, oh, Anna said to stop calling her a birthing person. No one was calling Anna a birthing person. Anna just put out this random tweet trying to act like, oh, the trans activist community is so crazy and they want to reinvent language and the way that we understand basic terms like man and woman. Therefore, they're forcing birthing person on all of us and this crap. Then when people made fun of that take because it was hysterical and unhinged, people like Emma Vigeland, that's when Anna Kasparian then melted down and decided to fuel her petty rage into this excuse ultimately to leave the left and declare herself unaligned and independent or whatever she goes with these days. But just to be clear, no one was calling Anna a birthing person. No one has ever called Anna a birthing person. I don't think anyone has ever called anyone a birthing person. There was like one fake article, the rage bait article about it that Anna cited. And again, a hysterical attempt to make the entire trans activist community look like crazy people who are hell-bent on forcing us all to relearn the English language.
Didn't she say allegedly she was forced to check that she was a birthing person at a doctor's office?
I don't think that's being called a birthing person.
True. No, I'm just trying to think. I think that's the only.
That was her
example.
excuse. She said that she was at a doctor's office and it said on a form, are you capable of giving birth, essentially?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, doesn't only apply to freaking women. I'm sorry to break it to you, but trans men exist and non-binary people do exist. So I'm sorry that their existence also has to be acknowledged sometimes.
Yeah, and that was the most ludicrous thing. It was like that was the one example that she could come up with. It was so flimsy. It was like, this is like the one time it's actually essential for that to happen.
There, where I kind of saw how the workplace was and how it didn't necessarily match, I would say, a left-wing workplace. And so I think they're just a little bit bummed out that we're, I think, a smaller show in subscriber count, but we do a lot better than them view-wise these days. And
everybody does. That's another thing we can chime in on. Their 6 million subscriber count is so inflated. They do numbers like a channel that has like 800,000 subscribers, like 700,000 subscribers, way fewer than the Majority Report or Secular Talk or Breaking Points or any of their real colleagues in the space at this point.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, occasionally TYT will have a clip that really pops off. Like they've even had a few recently in the last couple of months that really did well. But so does the Majority Report, and they have much less subscribers. The Majority Report consistently pulls at least as many live viewers, if not sometimes far more live viewers than TYT. Again, despite being a channel that's like 25-30% the size. I'm bad at math, but
I think less than that. Like maybe 20. I think 25%.
Yeah. So it's hugely impressive that the Majority Report is able to keep up with TYT, a channel with many more subscribers and that has a lot more, corporate backing behind it. As we've talked about, yes, the Majority Report does some small ad reads, but they don't accept poly-market sponsorships. They don't rename their fucking studio based off whichever corporation is paying them the most.
Don't do infomercials with Andrew Yang's cell phone company and Vivek Ramaswamy's Medicare advisory company. 100%. And the other thing about the Young Turks is the fact that they only ever get views when they adopt right-wing framework on their video clips. If you look at the videos that they have that are breaking out, it's like Tucker Carlson goes off, Marjorie Taylor Greene is completely vindicated, and it was like, stomp down, this conservative is right, actually. And those are the videos that will get like 400,000 views and be their breakaway ones. It's never like Cenk defending Medicare for all anymore.
Or the other one that did really well was Anna, attacked by local Karen and her poodle in the neighborhood. I think that one did like 800,000 views.
Do very well, yeah.
It's because they're going down this like kind of populist lane that I would argue throws a lot of marginalized people under the bus. And shout out to creators like Ole Lauren, who saw this earlier.
Fantastic.
Ole is a friend of mine too. So there aren't a lot of women in our space. I had appreciated that relationship, but it is not for me anymore, because I'm not about throwing trans people under the bus. I'm just not. I'm not. and even, what they're doing good work in terms of like pushing back on the narrative about Israel. And I appreciate that. But I think people should notice, like, how often do people pay attention to, or how often do people focus on criticizing Israel versus advocating for Palestinians in a way that is humanizing, right? Obviously, there's a lot of anger about the genocide, and it's really important that we have people that speak out about that. But Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking out about that, and
TYT is giving her way more credit than all of the progressives in Congress that have been speaking out about it since even before the fucking genocide began. Not that all those progressives are perfect, but again, if you're in the interest of doling out credit, let's dole it out to the fucking progressives that have been holding the line since day one and before, not people that opportunistically 2 weeks ago decided to change their image so that they could get reelected in a state which is increasingly blue.
Oh, but Gavin, those people don't support independent media like the Young Turks and like Marjorie Taylor Greene does.
Is not one that should be replicated or advocated for, absolutely, because of what I just said earlier about it being one based on Christian nationalism and not egalitarian vision. Something that people should pay attention to is like, what do people say about what the solution is in Israel and Palestine? And there isn't often, this is kind of a field of what we were talking about, but I guess it includes their commentary or what I've seen of it. What is the solution here? And what we advocate for on our show consistently is that this is like apartheid South Africa. One democratic state from the river to the sea. Palestinians have had their land being systematically taken from them and stolen by Israel for decades at this point. Since 1967, Israel has been illegally occupying East Jerusalem and the West Bank, which is supposed to be Palestinian territory by right. They've been illegally doing this since 1967, and since that point, 700,000 Israeli settlers have moved into the West Bank and stolen Palestine.
Emma's so good off the cuff right here, too. She knows her shit so well, and there's a reason you guys are going to be seeing Emma Vigeland everywhere. In the last 48 hours, honestly, it's insane. I'm really happy for her. She's exploding, and I think she's a great voice for the left. She was on Tim Heidecker's show. She was on Van Lathen's show. I think she was on MSNBC, and she was on Pod Save America, all within like 48 or 72 hours. And that's a real run. That's a real tear. She is everywhere, and she's effortlessly able to articulate and synthesize these issues that people will pretend are so, abstract and complicated, and she'll distill it down and be like, look, these people have had everything fucking taken from them. Don't you think that they should have a free and fair society, democratic rights, just like the rest of us, in the same place they call their home? And guess what? Yeah, fucking everybody can live there. We'll call it one fucking state, Palestine, and everybody will be free to, live in dignity. How's that sound as opposed to war forever? You know what I mean? And just lay it out for people.
Yep. She's super smart, very articulate, and 100% killing it. Really, such a rising star. She's been a rising star. I guess her star has officially risen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. She's been everywhere, and she deserves it because she kicks ass.
When people talk about the two-state solution, what's the answer? You're going to take 700,000?
You're going to move them?
You're going to move them out?
Yeah.
Okay, good luck with that. You've seen how they're torching Palestinian villages. I mean, it's going to lead to deep, deep unrest. The answer is a shared land and racial integration of Israel and a greater Israel and Palestine. And it's going to be difficult, like it was in apartheid South Africa. You're going to need peacekeepers. You're going to need an international Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You're going to need people there to oversee this process. But you can read the works of Israeli new historians like Avi Shleim and Ilan Pape, who have been talking about this for years. It is like apartheid South Africa, except now we are in an even deadlier period of it with the genocide. And that's how it needs to be framed. And so when people are paying attention to these critiques of Israel, which, again, I give them credit for what I've seen in terms of calling it a genocide, being clear about that. If you want a left-wing vision, you got to go that other step further. And that's why I don't fuck with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh,
sorry to break.
We like that.
Sorry to break
We
your
like
heart.
that.
But this is where, like, Zionists right now, we have to make the case for multiculturalism. It's like deeply, deeply important. Yeah. And I'm really, really frustrated.
Is this most of the TYT stuff?
Yeah, this is the end of the TYT stuff. But
obviously, great commentary on Israel. I totally agree with her. And yeah, I also agree that it's worth giving Cenk and Anna credit when they do well on like Piers Morgan or, blow up in the face of some Zionist piece of fucking trash. Like, what was that? Randy Fine or some shit like that? Who was the guy that Cenk just went off on Piers Morgan? It was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. We gave him credit for that. That's the one area where I do think they're pretty above reproach, even if Marjorie's guilty of some of the stuff that Emma was just saying. I do think that, Cenk has articulated what a long-term solution to the conflict would look like. So I think in that specific department, they've done great work. I'm not going to criticize them for their Israel-Palestine commentary. But yeah, it's the other stuff really, where you just get those hardcore Jimmy Dore, like 2017 vibes from TYT these days. And it's just like, it's so obvious that they're trying to pander to the right wing and expand their audience that way by constantly giving credit to Tucker Carlson and constantly giving credit to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And again, it's like they're literally in the same place that Jimmy Dore was quickly after he left TYT and when Cenk and Anna were trashing him daily. Right? For constantly giving credit to people like Tucker Carlson, for going on Tucker Carlson's show and being used as a useful idiot, right? Now, that's the role that Cenk and Anna often play.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. be